The only thing colder than a betrayed man's heart is the silence that follows his first act of vengeance. If you're still here, don't just watch. Subscribe. You'll truly want to know how far that silence can echo. I am sitting in my office on the 16th floor in Boston. The light is dead. It has no right to enter here, not in this milky, twilight form that envelops Copley Square. The carpet, charcoal-colored, is so dense in texture that it absorbs every sound, even the dull thud of my own footsteps. It is a designed silence, perfect for contemplation or for execution. I have always loved designed things, especially silences. I spent 30 years building a life around this architecture of absence. A house in Beacon Hill where you never hear the neighbors, a reputation as an attorney who never raises his voice, a marriage where disappointment was always expressed through courtesy. This is what I taught Kyle, my son. Strength lies in restraint, in the precise gesture, not in the scream. He didn't listen. Or perhaps he listened too well. I slide my finger over the wood grain of the desk, an old oak, as cold as the window pane behind which the city is beginning to light up in bluish sparks. I remember the feel of that ring, not hers, the one I had given his mother so long ago. Gold is a strange material. It is supposed to symbolize eternity, but in my hand it was only the weight of a broken promise. It was 3 weeks ago, the day before the wedding. The scene always plays out with the same cruel sharpness in my head, like a film where I have memorized every shot. The governor's salon. A historical venue on the coast, all dark woodwork and glittering chandeliers. The rehearsal dinner. Not a loud party, but a carefully selected affair of 200 people whispering behind crystal glasses. I wore a charcoal suit from Huntsman. Impeccable. Kyle stood up for the toast. He had that smile. The same one I had before the world wore me down. That smile of a young man for whom everything succeeds. Erin was beside him. Her arm slipped into his. She is beautiful. A cold type of beauty, with gray-green eyes which makes you feel studied, analyzed, and judged superficial. She is the reason I know, the trigger. The toast began with the usual platitudes: family, love, the future. And then Kyle's voice took a more serious turn. He raised his glass, looking directly into my eyes. "Dad, I wanted to thank you," he said. A silence. 200 pairs of eyes turned toward me. I leaned forward, a slight smile on my lips. Tension has always been my natural environment. "For teaching me discipline, Rigger." He paused, and the tone shifted. Subtle, dangerous. "And above all, for showing me what love is not." The silence ceased to be benevolent. It became electric, awkward. Erin's smile thinned, becoming a fine, satisfied line. "But tonight," Kyle continued, his voice strong, "is the time for a new era, for a new beginning, for a life without the shadows of the past." He put down his glass, his gaze still fixed on mine, now devoid of any affection. "Consequently, we have made a difficult but necessary decision. For this marriage to be truly ours, we have removed my father's name from tomorrow's wedding guest list." A murmur ran through the room, a sound of polite surprise, quickly muffled. No one wanted to cause a scandal in this prestigious venue, but the humiliation was total, public. In front of associates, clients, friends who were there to court me, not to see me rejected by my own blood. I didn't move. My body, my face. I felt like my heart had slowed to stillness, like a broken clock. This is the difference between pain and betrayal. Pain is hot, it burns. Betrayal is glacial, it numbs. I stood up slowly. The chair made a slight scrape on the parquet floor, the only sound in this mausoleum of embarrassment. I picked up the white linen napkin from my lap, folded it in half with obsessive precision, and placed it on the table. My gaze never left Kyle, nor Erin. "I understand," I said. My voice was low, without a single crack. The irony of it was that it was the pure truth. I understood everything. Their need to set themselves apart, the venom Aaron had distilled, Kyle's cowardice in attacking me in public rather than in private. I turned to the couple on my right, old family friends. My apologies, it was a lovely dinner. I left without another word, without a look back. I stepped out into the salty coolness of the night. The air on my face was a relief. What I felt was not rage. Rage is animalistic. I had felt a dangerous clarity, a crystallization of will. I did not cry, I did not shout. I drove home, to the silent house in Beacon Hill, and put on a tweed jacket. I poured myself a single finger of Lafrogue, whose smoky, bitter taste lined my throat. The first thing I did was open my laptop, not to write a threat, not for an email of reproach. I opened an encrypted folder, 10 years old, the folder of my real work. Kyle and Aaron had made the mistake of believing that my only power was money. They were wrong. My power was structural. I was Ryan Foster. For 20 years I had been, under an obscure and often forgotten administrative designation, the deputy coordinator of the License Registry for Suffolk County, Massachusetts. A bureaucratic position, without glamour, but with a terrifying administrative power, which I had managed to retain even after leaving public service for the private sector. My job was, among other things, to validate the integrity of the standard forms used to apply for civil marriage licenses throughout the city of Boston. I had always made sure everything was in order, until that night. Their wedding was to take place the next day. I had the digital copy of their license before my eyes, Massachusetts Marriage License, Form M47, a standard form used by hundreds of couples every month and validated in bulk by the clerk's office. What the authorities were unaware of was that 6 years earlier I had identified a flaw, a minor but legally crucial technical requirement regarding the witness's signature poorly translated in a digital version of the M47 form. I had reported the error, which had been brushed aside by a hurried new bureaucrat. I had kept the old version of the form, the correct version, as a safety net, or, as it turned out, a weapon. In the quiet of my office, I composed an email to Kyle at his professional address. It was simple, polite, and emotionless. Subject: congratulations. Kyle, I wish you and Aaron all the happiness you deserve. Please find attached a document that I believe you should keep for your records. It contains the latest update to the M47 license requirements, which I submitted to the clerk's office. It's for your assurance, nothing more. Ryan, I did not send a word of threat, only a PDF file titled M47 Rev. 2024 Legal Adjustment, PDF. The file was irrefutable proof that the current version of the form, the one they had used, and the one 100 other couples were using every day in the county, no longer met the legal definition of a valid license document according to the Massachusetts General Law, Section 207, Article 2. It was not a direct cancellation. It was far more elegant. It was a retroactive cancellation of the form's validity itself. Kyle, being the son of an obsessive lawyer for details, would likely read it. But he would read it after the wedding. He would see it as an irritating footnote, an old paternal obsession. Exactly what I wanted him to think. The wedding took place. I know this. I saw the photos fleetingly on a social media account managed by a distant cousin. The smiles, the expensive dresses, the sunlight filtering through the chapel's stained glass, Kyle with his confident air, Aaron looking triumphant. I spent the day gardening. I pruned the roses, those beautiful but cruel creatures that only bloom after demanding their share of blood. The sound of the shears was crisp, satisfying. The days that followed were strangely mild. There is a certain serenity in knowing that destruction has been triggered and is now unfolding without your intervention. It's like a slow, elegant poison poured into a river. You don't need to be there to see the first fish float to the surface. A week later, I heard the first jarring note. It came from Sam Taylor, a former colleague. He called me. Ryan, I have a weird case. A couple in Linfield property dispute. The wife claims their marriage isn't valid. Pure madness, of course. It's about a form translation, a witness thing, the M47. Does that ring a bell? I didn't blink. Sam, I left that bureaucracy a decade ago. A form error? Those are printing mistakes. They sort it out internally. It never affects legal validity. I sure hope not, Ryan. That would make us a laughing stock. I hung up the phone and walked to the living room. The solid oak of the fireplace was cold under my hand. It was a lie, of course. If the M47 form, as used for 6 years, was technically invalid, hundreds of marriages were not only illegal, but could be retroactively annulled with no easy recourse. It was not a simple printing problem, it was a legal bomb. The detail that Kyle and Aaron hadn't seen or had ignored in their complacency was that the PDF was not for them, it was the fuse for the system. When Kyle opened the file, he not only saw proof of potential invalidity, but he also unwittingly transmitted, via his professional address, an encrypted document that auto-unarchived to alert 2 legal journalists I knew. A double click from him, a quick read, and the mechanics of vengeance were launched. He did it, I'm sure, because he's a control freak, just like me. He had to know what his father's document contained. 2 weeks after the wedding, the rumble grew louder. First, an article in the Boston Globe, page 2, titled, "Legal Ambiguity, Doubts Cast on Validity of Suffolk County Marriage Licenses." The article mentioned the obscure Article 207, Section 2, and the M47 form. The next day, it was the front page. Big headlines, photos of panicked couples, lawyers were scrambling, notaries were holding their breath, judges were furious with the clerk's office. That evening my phone rang. It was Kyle. His caller ID appeared on the screen. "Kyle, my son." I let it ring 4 times, just long enough to feel the urgency and the vibration. Then I picked up. "Dad," he said. The tone was different. No more complacency, no more arrogance, only the hard, dry sound of panic. "Kyle, congratulations on the marriage. I hope the honeymoon was pleasant." "Stop it. Did you see the Globe? What is this story? What did you send?" I took a sip of my whiskey, slowly. "I sent an administrative update, Kyle, for your assurance. Remember what I always said, pay attention to the fine print." "The fine print? This isn't paperwork, Dad. People are panicking. That document, that PDF, it looks like it triggered everything." His voice was rising. He was losing control, the control I had taught him. "Ah," I said with a calm that surprised even myself. "That's strange. The clerk's office should be able to rectify this. They have years of data to regularize, hundreds of couples. It's tedious work, but it's their fault." "We are part of it," he shouted. "Our marriage, it's considered legally invalid for the moment." "Legally invalid, Kyle," I corrected gently. "You exchanged vows. Civil law is about validity, not feeling. Ask Erin, she knows." There was a silence. I could hear his heavy breathing, and in the background, Erin's high-pitched, tearful voice. "What did you want, Dad?" he whispered. "What did you want me to do?" "You ruined my reputation in front of people I respected," I replied, the truth simple and naked. "You chose public cowardice to create a new beginning for yourself. I didn't threaten you. I just showed you that your new beginning was built on shaky ground. And that shaky ground is a family specialty." "Fix it," he demanded. "You know I can't," I sighed sincerely. "I'm a private attorney. I don't have the power to repeal a law. I merely pointed out that it existed. Only the legislature or a high court can do that. It will take months, years." I set down my glass. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. I was tired, but not broken. Hundreds of couples, Kyle. Hundreds of disputes over inheritance, insurance, property. Hundreds of legally unmarried lives now. And all because I sent a simple PDF. It wasn't a threat. It was a silent confession. My power is not money, Kyle. It is the knowledge of the structure, and when you removed me from yours, I showed you that the structure could remove you from all others. The phone dropped. The line stayed open for a minute, filled with the tearing sound of Kyle and Erin's argument, a crescendo of tears, anger, and mutual reproach. I listened. with neither pleasure nor regret. Only the cold satisfaction of a job well done. The next day, the truth came out in its glacial splendor. The document I had sent had not only revealed the M47 error, but it had also brought to light a decade of administrative negligence, the kind of scandal that brings down careers. I had poked the ulcer, and the ulcer had burst. My own status? My name was mentioned in the article, but only as the former deputy coordinator, the man who had courageously pointed out the flaw years ago only to be ignored. I was almost portrayed as a whistleblower, a tragic figure. I even got a call from my former boss, a man I loathed, who told me, "Ryan, you were right all along." Irony is a delicious thing. I hung up with Kyle, the impression of the phone's texture still in my hand. Silence returned, but this time it was not the silence of restraint. It was the silence of a well-ordered devastation. I unfolded the wedding invitation they had sent me 6 months earlier, before crossing me out. It was in my desk drawer, clean and immaculate. I tore it up slowly, without a sound. The smell of the glossy paper filled my nostrils, a sweet, almost floral scent. It was the fragrance of the end. Twist. Revelation. What Kyle never understood, what Aaron could never imagine, was that the M47 form error was not due to a simple poor translation. It was from me. 6 years earlier, on a night of silent rage after my wife told me she wanted to leave, I had deliberately, methodically, introduced the legal ambiguity into the new digital form under the guise of a technical adjustment. It was my way of creating a self-destruct button for my own life, my own marriage in case it crumbled, a weapon I could have used against my wife, but never had the courage to deploy. Kyle, by publicly rejecting me and forcing my hand, simply gave that poison its intended purpose. The PDF was not a reminder of an administrative error. It was the key I had crafted years ago to unlock the destruction of my own design. My son and his wife annulled their marriage. I annulled the idea I had of them, and now I have nothing left to lose. The sound of the rain against the window intensified, covering the noise of distant traffic. I lean forward, my elbow on the desk. The surface is cold. If this story still echoes in you, it is because you understand that vengeance is never a noisy explosion, but a glacial whisper that becomes a certainty. Calm is the true violence. Stay, subscribe, and let me confess the next secret lurking in the shadows. Like this video, if silence is the only answer you have left.